Welcome to The Explainer. If you've ever used dating apps for a while and felt this weird kind of exhaustion, a feeling you can't really put your finger on, well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to break down what that burnout is and what it's actually doing to your brain.
So let's just dive right in with this quote because it gets right to the heart of it. For a lot of people, after about half a year of really being on the apps, this specific feeling starts to show up. And it's not just, being tired of bad dates. It's something else, something quieter. And wow, this phrase just nails it, doesn't it? A flatness. You still go through the motions, You match, you message, you meet up, but that little spark, that kind of buzz of excitement you used to feel, it's different. It's quieter. You feel more guarded. You start to feel less like a person on a date and more like an analyst taking notes. So if that feeling, that shift from being hopeful to being analytical, if that sounds even remotely familiar, then you're in exactly the right place, because we're going to get into what is really happening behind the scenes. And here is the absolute crucial point. This feeling is not a flaw in your character. It's not about you becoming jaded or cold. This is about neuroscience. We're talking about real, documented changes and how our brains respond to the very specific environment these apps create. Okay, so let's really unpack this flatness. Look, we all expect some disappointment when we're dating. That's kind of part of the deal, right? But what's really unsettling, what you don't see coming, is what happens to that part of you that used to feel hopeful before you even knew if there would be disappointment.
Yeah, this list pretty much sums it up. That first little buzz of a new connection, it just goes quiet. You feel yourself closing up a little, being more guarded. You're not just listening, you're cataloging. You're constantly checking your own responses. It honestly feels like a part of your brain that used to just work on its own suddenly isn't picking up the phone.
So, when we feel this way, our brains scramble to make sense of it. It's only natural, and most of us end up landing on one of two explanations. But here's the catch. While they both feel true, they're both missing the bigger picture.
So you either blame the outside world, these apps are terrible, everyone on here is a mess, I just need to find a better app, or you turn it inward. And this is where it can get really painful. You start telling yourself a story. I'm the problem. I've become damaged, harder to reach.
And this right here, this is the story that just eats away at you. It's not even the bad dates anymore. It's this quiet, nagging fear that the old you, the one who could feel things more easily, has been replaced by someone who's just defended, analytical, and completely exhausted.
But okay, deep breath, because that internal story, as real as it feels, is not what's actually going on. So let's set that story aside for a minute and look at the actual science of what's happening in your brain. It really all starts with this core concept from neuroscience called a variable reward schedule. And it sounds technical, but I promise it's simple, and it explains so much about why we do the things we do.
And this is the perfect way to understand it. Think about a vending machine. You put your money in, you get your snack. It's a fixed, predictable reward. Now think about a slot machine. You pull the lever, and you might win, or you might not. It's that unpredictability that gets our brains hooked. And guess what? Dating apps are built to be slot machines, not vending machines. That's not an accident. It's by design.
So what happens when your brain is constantly pulling that slot machine lever? Well, over time, its entire reward system starts to change. Your dopamine baseline literally recalibrates. And what that means is that a normal, real-life moment of connection, a nice conversation, a shared laugh, it doesn't give you the same kick anymore. It can start to feel, muted.
But it's not just about the rush of a potential reward. There's a second, really powerful thing happening. These apps are also training your brain's threat assessment system. It's like your brain learns this little routine. You match. You immediately start evaluating. Is this a waste of time? What are the red flags? You're constantly scanning for risk. And after doing this hundreds of times, your brain learns a powerful lesson. New connections are dangerous. They require constant vigilance. And the scariest part, it starts applying that lesson everywhere, even when you meet people in the real world.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis. A reward system that's out of whack and a threat assessment system on high alert. So what's the fix? You might think the answer's obvious. Just delete the apps. But unfortunately, it's not quite that simple.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference between just deleting the apps and actually recalibrating. See, deletion just gets rid of the problem. It creates a space, but it doesn't do anything to change how that empty space feels.
Recalibration is an active process. It's about giving your brain new, healthier, sustained input until that becomes the new normal.
So what does that new input look like? Well, it means having repeated, real experiences of connection that just move at a different speed, slower. It means having conversations that aren't about evaluating someone for a job they didn't know they applied for. It's about having human interactions where romance isn't even on the table. It's about retraining your brain one slow, real conversation at a time.
And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most important takeaway from all of this. If you hear anything today, hear this. You are not broken. You have not been permanently damaged.
That feeling of flatness, that suspicion that you've changed for the worse, that's not some deep insight into your character. It's just an accurate weather report of your current neurological state. You're feeling your brain's wiring, but you're telling yourself it's a story about your soul, and it's not.
The key thing, the most hopeful thing to remember, is that your brain is plastic. That's its superpower. And the same incredible adaptability that allowed your brain to learn all these protective patterns to survive the apps, that ability is still there. It's ready to learn new patterns.
So that person you remember, the one who is more open, more curious, less vigilant, that's not someone you have to fight to become again. They aren't lost. They haven't been erased. That person is already there. They are right there, inside you, just waiting. Waiting for a new environment, for enough different, healthier input to come back to the surface. You are so much closer to that feeling than the flatness makes you believe.
So we're going to leave you with this question to think about. When did you first notice it? That moment you realized you were just going through the motions. Because pinpointing that isn't about feeling bad, it's just about noticing. And that awareness, that's the beginning of everything changing.